And welcome back. So, in today's daily cribbage, I thought we'd do something a little bit different. It's Sunday, and um, today I think what I want to do is talk a little bit about some basic strategy. So, let's play against, well, one of the computers, and in this way we can spend as long as we like in any position before we make any plays, and we can really think out what we're going to do. So normally when I'm playing online we only have 30 seconds to make our moves or thereabouts. And so let's start off at the easy end. Maybe each week we will increase the difficulty a little bit. Okay, so what's the position? We are starting off as pawn, as a non-dealer, and at the beginning of the game, we want to really prioritize just playing as solid as possible. We want to keep in mind what's the goal at this point. Well, at this point, we're trying to get to the first positional milestone. So, what are the positional milestones? Well, the first one's going to be at 18 points, but these milestones get more and more important as we get closer to the end of the game. Remember that each round we can get a lot more or a lot less than the average. It's very high variance. So the first goal is to get to 18 points. And what's the best way to do that? And the secondary goal, of course, is to stop our opponent from getting to 18 points. Now, how likely is that? Well, our opponent's the dealer. On average, they're going to get about 15 points. And then when they're pawn, they're going to get a few more points. So it's quite hard for us to stop them. But the ways in which we can stop them are, the ways in which we can make this good for us is to either get a very big score, or we can try and slow them down a lot, putting uh, some terrible stuff into the crib. So let's actually have a look at our hand now. We've got ace 3, 5, 8, 10, 10. The first thing we notice is we've got a pair of 10s and a 5. So together, this is 6 points. There's no other way to really get more points, and we're wondering what should we pair with this, what should we put with this 5, 10, 10? Well, then the way to really answer that is to think about what's the best thing to put into the crib. So we could put ace 3 into the crib, ace 8 into the crib, or 3, 8. And of these, well, there's a few different arguments, and when we can go through them all because we have a little bit of time. And maybe I'll focus on this hand because we can do some basic stuff, but I'll maybe speed up in a moment. So what's the difference between ace 3, ace 8, and 3, 8? Well, if we put ace 3 into the crib, it's worth actually quite a lot more points than the others because, or the crib's going to be worth a lot more points because there's quite a high chance our opponent puts a 2 into the crib. When I say high, I mean if they put a 2 into the crib, they're going to get a lot of points. Also, ace 3 combos with other cards like 4 and low cards in general can be quite helpful for making 15s. So even though ace 3 doesn't contain any 5s or combos that make 5, it can turn into one quite easily. If our opponent throws another ace in, ace 3 adds the 5, our opponent throws a 2 in, not only is there a run, it also contains 5 with the 2, 3. However, there are situations when you would want to throw ace 3, and it's not because it's good in the crib, it's because it leaves us with 8, 10, 10, and if we hit a 9, we get a double run, and that's very good. So, in the interest of time, let's make our choice. It's going to be ace 8. We keep open the ability for us to hit 3, 4, 5, and we throw away something that's worth quite little in the crib. Also, 3, 8 is also a fine discard, but 3 impacts the play a little bit more, in my opinion. 6 is pretty bad. It makes 2 points with the cards we throw away. Ace, 8, 6. Okay, and now we're on to the play. Admittedly, the play is the hardest part, and maybe in the future we'll talk a little bit more about why we should lead certain things. I'm just going to play a 10. 9. 9 is extremely risky from our opponent. If someone leads a 10, you might expect them to have jacks. We don't have a jack here, so let's try and make it. So one option is to play our 5 to get it out of the way. I might play well, I don't think this position really happens very often against against opponents that aren't easy. So anyway, let's go 10 here. So at this point, we should think to ourselves, what has our opponent played so far? We've seen a 9, we've seen a 7. There are quite a few cards that sort of combo with that quite well. The main one being 8, but secondarily, you might think about 6s. And so, for that reason, I'm going to go 3 here to avoid having my opponent play a 6 and a 7. So 7, 7, 9 queen is what they kept. We threw away ace 8. They throw away 2, 9. So clearly they're missing a trick, because many people would probably throw away 2 queen there. Or 9, 9. Or 7, 7. Anyway, that was the first round, and our opponent scored 9 points. They're halfway towards that 18-point goal that we talked about, but we expect them to score less as pawn, and we've got ourselves a good way towards 18, and hopefully we can get there on the next round. Let's see what happens. 4, 6, 6, 8, jack queen. I'm going to think of this hand as being grouped into cards that are lower than 8 and higher than 8. We're just going to keep those together, just to keep it simple. We don't have many points in our hand, so we want to keep the option open for the best ways for our hand to improve. And if we discard jack queen, we have really good ways to improve. We can improve with a 7 and a 5, really big ways. So let's keep those options open. Yeah, another option would be to discard 6, 6, but that doesn't really play so well. We also keep cards that are sort of in the middle, so they can play okay. Alright, our opponent leads a 5, which is quite scary considering the top card's jack. I don't really want to use the fact that we're playing against the easy computer. I think the easy computer throws away or starts with lots of 5s ordinarily. But I'm going to play the 8 in order to avoid if we play a 6 going 6, 5, 4. Because 4, 5, 6 not only is a run, it adds to 15. So that's a lot of points. So we should always avoid that. We're going to pair this 4. And our opponent so far has revealed 4, 5, 7, and I think that was a 3. So 3, 4, 5, 7. So quick quiz. What's our opponent's hand score? The answer is 3, 5, 7. Unless it was a flush, which I don't think it was. 7 of clubs. Okay. So our opponent's made it to 18, just about. We've got to 19, and overall this is a bit below average. On average, we're going to expect to score 25, 26 points over the course of playing as the dealer and as pawn. So we're a bit behind schedule, but positionally, we're doing fine. We are at 19 points, and so the next milestone that we want to get to is 44. So let's see how we can get there. We're going to keep 5 with lots of 10s. Very if you see a 5 with lots of 10s, it's always going to be worth more 6 or more points. I lead the queen here. It's also fine to lead the 5. If you have lots of different values of 10, then leading the 5 is actually quite good. Because if your opponent makes 15, then it's quite likely that you're going to be able to play one of your 10s and double them afterwards, and your opponent won't be able to triple you because you'll be on 25. Opponent could have so let's think about our opponent's hand. What is it? Well, if they've played a 4, then some of the most common hands with 4s are 4, 4, 5, 6. That's very common. And also 4s that combo with aces and 10s. So 4, 4, ace, 10, 4, 4, ace, jack, 4, 4, ace, queen, 4, 4, ace, king. In a lot of those hands, then, we're seeing lots of 10 count cards. And because of what we have in our hand, we expect our opponent to have fewer queens and more 10s. So what should we keep? What should we throw? Should we play safe, or should we try and be aggressive? Should we expect our opponent to play a queen and we want to play our own queen on top? Well, in this case, I'm going to get rid of our 10. We're going to get rid of the option for our opponent to double us. So we've seen ace, 3, 4. There could be a lot of 5s here. There could be 2s. Well, there can't be 2s because our opponent would have been able to play it at the end of the last round. So what else could they have? An 8, 3, 4, 8. So if our opponent has a 5, then they're always getting 2 points here. The only difference is if we lead our own 5, we don't get 2 points. So I'm going to lead the 10. And indeed, they had the 8. Okay. So 6 points from our opponent. Oh, 8 points for our opponent because 3, 3, ace, 8. And that's quite a lot of points in the crib. Why is that? 3, 3, 6, 6. It's a good combo. So, easy opponent by name, but they're putting up quite a lot of resistance today. And here is something, and we're talking about sort of beginning strategy, so when we look at this hand, it might seem like we've got a couple of options. We could maybe putting a 5 in the crib is always really nice, and keeping a long run could be good, so some may say 5, 6. However, if we keep the 5 with 3 cards that make a run, that's already 9 points. And it's very hard to say no, in my opinion, to 9 points. The 6 and the 10 are the closest together. So this is going to be worth, 6, 10 is going to be worth more than the other pairs. Well, the other pair being 6, king. Okay, it turns out we were wrong. Keeping the 10 would have been better because we would have made a double run. Alright, opponent shows 4 and 6. That often means one of two things. It often means that our opponent has a 5, which they're keeping back. Or it could also mean that they've got a hand like 9, 6, 4, 2. So we're going to get rid of our jack here. Queen. So I'm expecting... Okay. So there's actually there's something to talk about here. Our opponent's last card is very often a 5. And if it is a 5, then the best thing for us to do is to play the king. Because if we do that, then we get to pair their 5. if we play our king, the worst scenario is they play a jack. But if they do play a jack, think about their hand: queen, jack, 6, 4. And it's not a flush because they're 6 and they're 4 were not diamonds. So that would be either 0 or 1 points depending on whether the jack is a heart. That's very low. And so we don't really mind giving that hand some points because they don't make their score doesn't get them to the positional milestone. It doesn't get them to 44. So here I think we're going to play the king, and on the 5 we get to pair. Turns out they had a 4, which is even worse for them. They don't get points on the play, and they only have 2 points in hand. Whereas our hand is worth 13 points. It would normally be worth 12, but we have the jack of hearts. And our crib is fairly... there's pretty much nothing in there. Okay. Here we spot the double run, ace, ace, 2, 3, which is very strong. Double runs are always worth at least 8 points. And we can pick how to play it out. Let's pick one strategy that I like sometimes, which is to play our doubled card last. In this case, our doubled card's quite low, so we're going to aim to try and get a pair of aces at the end. So if our opponent passes here, which they don't, would have got a pair of aces, but instead we get 31. We also play the 3 and the 2 out to get 15, which many opponents, many more advanced opponents would try and avoid. Opponent gets a lot of points in the crib there, so what happened? They had 5, 9, 10, queen, and then we threw away 6, 10. Opponent threw away 5, 7. So opponent makes sort of a terrible decision. They decide to keep 4 points in hand and throw a 5 into the crib, but it somehow worked out for them. Generally, so our opponent's hand was 5, 5, 7, 9, 5, 5, 7, 9, 10 queen. It would have been pretty good if they had kept 9 and thrown away 9 and 7, keep 10 points in hand, which would have turned into 16 when the 10 came up. So we got away with a little bit there, I think. Here we spot another double run. This time it's with 10s. So this is a little bit more risky because there are many strategies to extract points from a hand that contains all 10s on the play. And so we're going to tread with caution. We're going to try and avoid giving away points here. Our opponent makes it 21, which is very dangerous because this happens. And we get 2 points for 31. We're going to play a queen and play a 10. Okay. So just a bit of background. I think the easy opponent is usually a lot easier than this, and I think every time I've played it so far, I've won with a skunk. I've beat them by more than 30 points. This is one of the first times I think it's really gone quite badly. The only time I didn't beat it with a skunk, or I might not have beaten it, was when I didn't have time and had to exit. 7, 7, 8, 9, another double run for us. It's going quite well. This one's even better than normal because we have 7s and 8s in the double run, and those are gonna give us more 15s. 3 comes up on top, which is terrible. We'll lead the 7. Okay. And here we have an option. We can either get a run of 3 with the 8, or we can pair the 9. I'm going to just pair the 9 for safety, but, well, do I want to do that? Do I really? So the question is, how much are we upset by our opponent playing a 6. Because if we play an 8 and our opponent plays a 6, they get a run of 4, and we don't have an ace to sort of get any points back off that. So if our opponent gets 4 points, it takes them to 67. And I forgot to say, then the next positional milestone after 44 is 70. We've already got past 70 and our opponent hasn't got to 70, so it's already a really good position for us. We're doing great. And there's a chance that our opponent doesn't have a 6, and this is going to move us towards a position where we can maybe skunk our opponent. So I'm going to play an 8 here, opponent plays a 5. Our opponent has shown 9 ace 5. It's very likely they have another one of those cards. In particular, if they have another 9, it makes sense for us to play 7. Okay, so our double run with 2 7s and an 8 is worth 12. Opponent has very little in the crib. And they also have only 4 points in hand. So we're doing quite well now. Okay. So we've got a 5 and we've got a 10. And we've got lots of small numbers, ace 2 4, an 8 and a 10. If you were to see this hand for the first time, perhaps one of the best things to do here, I think, is to go 2 8, because you keep ace 4 5 10, which is worth 4 points, and it turns into 8 points when you get a 10 on top of the deck, which happens quite a lot of time. If you think about it, in total there's 16 cards that are worth 10, and we've only seen one of them now, so 15 out of 46, which is 15 out of 46, which is more than a quarter of the time. It's more than a third of the time actually. You're going to get another 4 points. So this hand is very good. However, and maybe I should do that just for simplicity. I'll just note what I would probably do in an actual game is to throw away 5-10, because I keep the option open for some long runs below, and also throw a 5-10 into the crib, which is a very good thing to do. But we'll go 2-8 here, keep it simple, and we hit one of the payoffs, which is a 4, which is nice. And we'll go make it 20. It's also very reasonable to do 15 there. At the end, we double the 5. Oh. So in the bottom right, it shows the sort of scores, and this is on Cribbage JD. It gives you can have a quick look to see what the different options were. Yeah, so normally I'd keep ace 2 4 8 and throw away the 5-10 into the crib. And as you can see, when you throw 5-10 into the crib, the crib is going to be worth a lot more. So this is the expected value of the crib here, 6.02. Whereas if we throw away 2-8, 2-8 don't really combo well together very often. They add to 10, and our opponent's not very likely to throw any 5s into our crib, unless they're the easy opponents. So in this case, maybe it's okay. The other nice option, according to this, is to throw away ace 4. So that ace 4 adds to 5, which is always nice to put into the crib. So you can see ace 4 is worth 4.44 in the crib. So it's missing 2 points, because 5-10 is worth 2 points. So it's around 2 points less, but it's worth a lot more than 2-8, because it adds to 5 and the combos with all the 10s that our opponent's going to throw in there. Okay. Alright, what's this all about? Well, we spot a pair of kings, and we spot ace 4 that adds to 5. So if we put those two parts of our hand together, we get 6 points, because the pair is 2 and the two 15s. And then we're throwing 9, 10 into our opponent's grip. And I'll note something kind of nice, which is that it can be scary to throw away cards that are connected, that have difference of 1 in value. But if your opponent doesn't have any of the cards that turn it into a run, that turn up in the grip, in this case it doesn't happen, the one of those cards in the that you throw away is often not going to play a huge role in the value of the crib. So as you can see, opponent's crib is only worth 6 because of the 9 that we threw away. The 10 doesn't play any role in that score. And often the hands that score 0 or the cribs that score 0 are ones where you get pairs of consecutive cards that don't interact in any way. So so consecutive cards can be scary, but they can also be a good way to get your opponent's crib to be worth very little. And now we're at 117. Our opponent's at 85. We flew past the previous positional milestone of 96. We don't need to really pay attention to position anymore, mostly because we're so far ahead. The only thing that we really want to do now is to try and score 4 points before our opponent scores 6 points. We would like to try and get the skunk. How do we do that here? We want to keep the hand that plays the best, because we really need to score those 4 points now and not later. So what hand would do that the best? Well, how can we score 4 points? Well, we'd like to make 15 somehow. Our opponent could lead a 6 and we could play a 9. Opponent could lead a 6 and we could play our own 6. However, if we do that, they might triple us. They might get 6 points straight away. We might want to keep a 7 in case they play an 8. But one thing to notice is that we have a lot of 9s, and this means that our opponent is less likely to have 9s, and I'm inclined therefore to throw away our 9s. Or throw at least one of them away. We might want to throw away a jack as well. How good's a jack on the play? Well, it's has a value of 10. It's good to have a mixture of low cards and high cards, and cards that add to special values, such as 11, or in this case, because we're the dealer, we have some magic 11s available to us. So for instance, if we throw away 9, let's say our opponent leads a king. If we play our ace, opponent goes queen, we could play our jack to make 31, and maybe we're in a good position there. 6, 7 can also be quite good here, because we can use it as a trap. If our opponent keeps a 5 to the end, we can get a run of 3 points right at the end by keeping this 6, 7. So I'm sort of drawn towards this hand. We have an 11, we've got 6, 7 to trap the 5. Opponent leads a 6. We really want to get to 4 points. I think there's no reason not to pair this. They could have another 6, but that's okay. They don't have another 6, so we're going to go up to 25. Opponent shown 6, 3, 3. We expect the last card to be a 9, so we're quite happy here. We estimate our chances of winning of being quite high, because we get the last card here and the last card here. We get the skunk. Overall, we managed to get quite a lot of points on the play. That's how it often goes. The hands we got a lot of points on. In the crib, we got a bit unlucky with opponent getting a lot better cribs, and our opponent keeping some pretty questionable hands. So that was a game today. No additional analysis for today. We've said everything we wanted to. So I will see you next time.